making the upper half of the firewall. Where to start? Well, maybe we'll start with watching some YouTube videos. Oh, wait a minute, that's just a waste of time. All right, so we have to make an upper half for this firewall, and for obvious reasons, this is not going to work the way it is. Well, unless I use a rear view camera or something like that. So I have a plan for a back window that's a little bit, shall we say, non-automotive. It is a tempered glass shelf. It's 12 by 24. I found out through a few tests that 24 inches wide, when you look back in the rearview mirror, it does not block any more than what the sides of this block. So you'll still be able to have a full view. As far as the view, when you turn and look where your blind spot would be at, I've got some interesting things that I'm going to do so you'll be able to see out of the complete quarter glass, so you don't end up with a blind spot over there that's so long that it would hide a pickup truck. So this is a sheet of glass that I'm using as a back window. Yeah, it's square, but once I put a trim strip on the inside and outside of it, it can be any shape I want it to be. I'm using this glass because it's readily available. It's a standard size. It'll be easy to replace if it ever gets broke. It's tempered glass, not laminated glass, so if it does break, it'll shatter into little tiny pieces, not big long shards like your standard glass would. All right, let's cut to what we did. So this is the plan, and this is the panel. This is the panel installed, and this is the top edge where it's going to be welded to the car. Pretty decent fit. And what follows is some video of what it took me to get to this point. This is not a how-to video. This is a how I did it video. Celica rear seat delete. Am I doing this right? And as always, starting out with a very detailed, easily understandable set of plans, which we will probably not follow anyway. And I've made a template, which is somewhat the shape of what I'm going to be using. First, a little metal preparation, because the metal needs to be prepped, been stored for a while. And the other reason, it's a lot easier to do this while the metal is still one solid flat sheet. Early in this part of the project, I decided that this panel would be made out of 4 separate pieces. 2 side pieces, a top piece and a bottom piece. Making it out of 4 separate pieces would just make it a lot easier to roll the flanges into the parts and make it easier to work with each individual piece one at a time. Making the side sections of the panel was easy. They were simply flat panels with a flange on it for the glass to set into. The top panel, on the other hand, was going to be a little more difficult. It was a flat panel that was going to have to attach to a curved surface while leaving the panel flat so the glass could attach to it. Well, at this point, if you're still watching, you're probably trying to figure out if there is method to my madness, and well, I think there is. I'm not sure if anybody would agree with me, but making this out of 4 sections makes it a lot easier to roll these inner flanges to mount the glass to. What I'm going to do after I get this flange rolled is cut the metal out of here to here of the flange. Those 2 flanges will butt together, be welded at a 45, and this is going to be the area where I have to plug weld the panels together at all 4 corners. I think it'll work. But let's get back to making a flat panel that will attach to a curved car body. So that leaves me with a bit of a square peg in a round hole situation. The window has to be perfectly flat and the car body curves. So in order to compensate for that, the flange along the top edge has to be bent and be a little bit longer at the outside edges than it is in the middle, so it can reach back to the car body and leave the metal far enough forward so the window can be flat. So I made this cardboard template with braces on it to hold it perfectly flat. And I took a guess at about how much curve I was going to need to get the distance I needed on the outer ends so everything would stay flat and meet the curve. And when my son came over here the other day, we took the hatch off the car. We held this up in place, got it lined up, clamped in, and we drew a line across here at the top edge of the car body. So now all I have to do is cut along that line, cut that out of sheet metal, put a flange in it, shrink it a little bit until this is all perfectly flat, and it should work. Well, because of my change of plans and where I was going to attach this to the car at, my template turned out to be too short to make this flange on, so now my template is 2 templates, and I have to make that into 1 piece of sheet metal, which that should be easy enough. It's just a matter of lining it up for height and putting it on there. What I'm going to do first is bend the flange on this top strip of metal. So in order to bend this flange onto this top strip of metal, I'm going to cut this piece of metal to length. Then I'm going to just mark out my flange, bend it, shrink it, do everything I need to do, and then I will cut it for width to make it the width that I need it after I've got the flange bent to shape. Yes, there is a mark there. All right, here we are again doing something that I really don't know a whole lot about. I haven't done any bending with this tipping die. I just bought it off eBay, Amazon. I'll put a link in the description below. Anyway, I don't know anything about this other than I've done a couple pieces of scrap to see what happens. Now I'm going to actually put a piece of metal through it and see if I can destroy it. Oops, turn it on. Did that even deform the metal? Yeah, just a little bit. Let's go a little more pressure on that. Now the real problem is going to be getting pressure upward on the metal. Well, that's a start. And as you can see, as I bent that flange, because the flange is curved, it curved the part of the panel that's supposed to be straight. So I'll have to shrink this flange just a little bit to get this panel to lay flat. We'll see how that works out. Well, I've started to stretch it just a little bit. Shrink it just a little bit. And what I've learned is it takes very little pressure on this pedal to actually make it move. Straightening up quite quickly. Now to just get it there without going past what I need. Just the slightest touch moves it. It's pretty flat already. Not as flat as I thought it was. Right over here. Well, I don't know if you're impressed or not, but I'm impressed. Well, actually more amazed than anything. It's actually almost flat, and I didn't have to start over. And what's even more amazing is it's pretty close to having the right curve to it. Even more amazing, I've got more than I need on the outside edges, which is great. Made myself a little temporary jig to hold the panel in place as I fit it, hundreds, maybe thousands of times. But I do believe that's going to work. And it's even straight. Actually, this is about take 15, but. So on to the next part of this operation. That's going to be cutting this off to width and rolling the flange onto it. I need to stay down low enough on the flat part of the flange so that my roller does not run into the first flange that I put on. I have no illusions that this is not going to warp the panel a little bit, but it's going to be a whole lot straighter rolling this flange onto this narrow of a panel than it would be if I tried to do this flange on this narrow of a panel. So I'm going to cut this thing off and we're going to see what happens. What I'm going to do after I get this flange rolled is cut the metal out of here to here of the flange. Those two flanges will butt together, be welded at a 45, and this is going to be the area where I have to plug weld the panels together at all 4 corners. Three-quarters of the way there. 1, 2, 3, and this is 4. I'm at the point where I need to do some precision measurement to make sure that I get this in exactly the right spot. Scribe a couple lines where my 45s are at, and tack weld it all together, and hopefully it stays square, unlike when I did this and it wasn't square and I had to heat it up, bow it back in. But it's square now, and the glass does fit. That's kind of important. All right, after some careful calculations, I figured out it needs to be about 14 degrees of bend. A lot of spring back on that. Haven't started bending it at all yet. That's just barely 14. Another little pull. Looks good to me. Some minor adjustments, a little bit of welding, and we have a finished panel. We have a frame. Now if this piece of glass fits in it, we might have a window. Looking good. A little bit of clearance all the way around. I think that'll work. Now if I can get it welded into the car. This is approximately what the rear view mirror sees, so it doesn't take away any of your visual angles that the rear hatch and spoiler wouldn't take away already. Nothing left to do but weld it in, and I'll do that in the morning when it's cool. And start on the side panels. All right, like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and as always, thanks for watching.